The Deep Space Monitoring Station floated like a metal island in the darkness beyond Neptune. For 18 months, Lieutenant Commander Park Min-ho had watched the endless black of space through its windows. The most exciting thing that had happened was when the coffee machine broke down last Tuesday. Min-ho sat at his desk, reading the same boring reports he read every day. The station was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the gentle whoosh of air recycling systems. His crew of 12 people worked at their posts, monitoring radio signals from distant stars. Most days, they found nothing but cosmic background noise and the occasional burst from a pulsar. Specialist Kim Hygiene worked at the communications console, her headphones covering her ears as she listened to the static of empty space. She had joined the crew 6 months ago, fresh from the academy on Earth. Like Min-ho, she had expected this assignment to be boring but peaceful. That peace ended at exactly 0347 hours when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. Red lights flashed throughout the station. The computer screens turned bright yellow with warning messages. The sound was so loud that Min-ho jumped from his chair and nearly spilled his coffee on the floor. "Sir!" Kim Hygiene shouted over the noise, pulling off her headphones. Her face was pale with shock. "I'm picking up a massive transmission from the Vega system. It's directed at us." Min-ho ran across the control room to her station. His heart was beating fast. In all his years of service, he had never heard the alarm sound like this. The computers were going crazy, processing more data than they had ever received before. "Show me," he said, leaning over her shoulder to look at the screen. The display showed a powerful radio signal coming from the direction of Vega, a bright star 25 light-years from Earth. But this was not natural cosmic radiation. The signal had patterns, structure, meaning. It was clearly made by intelligent beings. "The computers are trying to translate it," Hygiene said, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "The signal is using mathematical concepts as a base language. Very advanced stuff." Other crew members gathered around the console. Everyone wanted to see humanity's first message from aliens. Min-ho felt excited and scared at the same time. This was the moment that would change everything. The translation software worked hard, comparing the alien symbols to human mathematics and language patterns. Slowly, words began to appear on the screen in Korean and English. What they said made Min-ho's blood turn cold. "To the primitive species of Soul, 3, you have been designated for incorporation into the Great Hegemony. You have 72 standard rotations to surrender your military assets and submit to pacification protocols. Resistance will result in complete sterilization of your world. Compliance ensures survival as a servant species." The control room fell completely silent. The alarms had stopped, but the red warning lights still flashed. Nobody moved or spoke for a long moment. Min-ho read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood something. But the words were clear. The aliens were not greeting Earth in peace. They were demanding surrender. "Sir," whispered Technician Lee Bo-ram from across the room, "what does pacification protocols mean?" Min-ho knew exactly what it meant, but he did not want to say it out loud. The aliens were threatening to destroy humanity if Earth refused to become their slaves. "Give me a direct line to Earth Command," Min-ho ordered, moving to his own console. "Priority Alpha Communications. And Kim, start the deep scan protocols. I want to know exactly what's heading our way." Hygiene nodded and began working at her station again. Within minutes, she had more bad news. "Sir, I'm detecting a fleet of approximately 200 vessels entering the outer solar system. They're big and they're armed. The energy signatures suggest plasma-based weapons." Min-ho opened the emergency channel to Earth. The blue and white planet appeared on his screen, looking peaceful and beautiful. Soon, the face of Admiral Yoon Tae-ho appeared. "Admiral, we have a situation," Min-ho said quickly. "We've received first contact from an alien species. It's not friendly." He transmitted the alien message to Earth Command. As Admiral Yoon read it, his expression grew dark and serious. "How long do we have?" the Admiral asked. "Based on their speed and distance, maybe 48 hours before they reach Earth orbit," Min-ho replied. Admiral Yoon was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Minho. "Thank you for the warning, Commander. Now please switch to Secure Channel 7 and stand by for new orders." The screen went black. Minho looked around at his crew. They all seemed confused and worried. But there was something in Admiral Yoon's voice that suggested Earth was not as helpless as the aliens believed. "Sir," Hygiene asked quietly, "what do you think will happen now?" Minho stared out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to destroy or enslave his home world. But for some reason, he did not feel as afraid as he should. "I think," he said slowly, "the aliens are about to learn that they picked the wrong species to threaten." Admiral Yoon Tae-ho stood in the middle of a secret space station that nobody on Earth knew existed. The station was hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Pluto, where it had waited in darkness for 50 years. Around him, computer screens that had been black for decades suddenly came to life with bright colors and flashing lights. "Begin the awakening protocol," he said in a quiet voice. Captain Song Ji-hoon pressed a series of buttons on his control panel. He had practiced this moment many times, but never thought it would really happen. "All stations, this is Command Actual. Authorization Cerberus 77 Alpha. Begin fleet activation." His words traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching hidden bases scattered throughout the solar system. These bases have been built in secret, disguised as asteroids or hidden in the shadows of moons. For 50 years, they have been building something incredible. On a base near Jupiter, automated machines that had slept for decades suddenly woke up. Lights flickered on in massive underground factories. Robot workers began moving along assembly lines, checking systems and preparing ships that had never seen sunlight. In the asteroid belt, a rock that looked ordinary from the outside split open like a flower. Inside was a shipyard the size of a city, filled with warships of incredible design. The ships were sleek and beautiful, but also terrifying. Their hulls were black as space itself, and they bristled with weapons that looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. Lieutenant Kong Soyoung opened her eyes inside a small pod filled with cold mist. She had been sleeping for 3 years, waiting for this moment. Around her, other pods opened with soft hissing sounds as her crewmates woke up from their long sleep. She climbed out of her pod and put on her uniform. Her body felt stiff at first, but special medicines in the pod had kept her healthy during her long sleep. Within minutes, she felt normal again. "Status report." She called out as she walked to her position on the bridge of the destroyer ship called the Indomitable. Ensign Bay Min Seo checked his computer screens. "Dark energy cannons at full charge," he said with excitement in his voice. "Quantum shields operational. Stealth systems are green across the board." So Young smiled. These were words that most humans had never heard before. Dark energy cannons were weapons that could destroy entire ships with a single shot. Quantum shields could stop any weapon the aliens might use. And stealth systems made their ships invisible to enemy sensors. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the alien fleet continued flying toward the solar system. The aliens were confident and happy. They had conquered 47 different worlds, and Earth would be number 48. Fleet Commander Zenderas stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at pictures of Earth that his scouts had taken. The pictures showed primitive rockets that used chemical fuel, just like the first rockets humans had built hundreds of years ago. Primitive chemical rockets and basic orbital installations, he told his officers with a laugh. This will be over within the day. Begin targeting their population centers. The aliens had no idea that those primitive rockets were just for show. The real human fleet was hidden where no alien sensor could find it. Thousands of advanced warships waited in the darkness, invisible and silent. What the aliens did not know was that humans were very good at learning from their mistakes. When Earth's governments first detected alien signals 50 years ago, they had made a plan. If the aliens were friendly, Earth would welcome them with open arms. But if the aliens were hostile, Earth would be ready. So while the world's people went about their normal lives, secret projects worked in the shadows. The smartest scientists and engineers from every country worked together to build the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. They called it the Death Fleet, and it had been waiting for this day. "Sir," Captain Song said to Admiral Yoon, "all ships report ready. We have them completely surrounded." On his screens, Admiral Yoon could see the positions of over 3,000 human warships. They formed a perfect trap around the approaching alien fleet. The aliens thought they were the hunters, but they were actually the prey. Admiral Yoon thought about all the people on Earth who had no idea what was happening. Children playing in parks, families eating dinner, students studying in schools. The aliens wanted to make them all slaves or kill them. That was something he could never allow. Send the response signal to their demand for surrender, he ordered. Captain Song pressed a button that sent a message to the alien fleet. The message was simple but powerful. It went out on all radio frequencies, so every alien ship would hear it clearly. Message received. Terms rejected. Prepare for consequences. When Fleet Commander Zenthara heard the human message, he laughed again. How could these primitive creatures reject the mighty hegemony? But his laughter stopped when his sensors detected something impossible. Energy signatures were appearing all around his fleet. Lots of them. More than he had ever seen before. Ships were powering up their weapons and engines, but he could not see them with his eyes. "What is happening?" he shouted at a crew. But it was too late for questions. The trap was closing, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when you threaten the wrong species. The alien fleet arrived at Earth like hungry wolves, confident and eager for an easy kill. Fleet Commander Zenthara decided to make an example that would terrify the humans into quick surrender. He chose Luna Colony, the peaceful research station that orbited Earth's moon. Fire on the lunar installation, he ordered his weapons officer. Show these primitives what happens to those who refuse the hegemony. Bright beams of superheated plasma shot across space toward the small station. The colony had no shields, no weapons, no way to defend itself. Scientists, researchers, and their families watched in horror as death approached at the speed of light. The plasma cannons hit Luna Colony with devastating force. The research station would have been home to 3,000 people, turned into molten metal and glowing gas in seconds. Mothers, fathers, children, and elderly grandparents all died instantly. Their crime had been living in the wrong place when aliens decided to make a point. It was the last easy victory the aliens would ever claim. Admiral Yoon watched the destruction from his command station, his face hard as stone. Around him, his officers waited for orders. They had all seen their fellow humans die, and now they wanted revenge. All ships. Admiral Yoon's voice carried across the fleet communication network to thousands of hidden warships. Weapons free. Show them what happens when they threaten human civilians. What happened next would be remembered as the moment when humanity announced itself to the galaxy. The space around Earth suddenly erupted into chaos as thousands of human ships appeared from nowhere. One moment the aliens saw empty space, and the next moment they were surrounded by an enormous fleet that should not have existed. Captain Song watched from the command bridge as their weapon systems locked onto targets across the alien formation. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, like a pack of wolves that had been hunting together for years. The dark energy cannons fired first. These were not normal weapons. They shot beams of concentrated nothingness that did not just destroy alien ships, but seemed to erase them from reality entirely. Where the beams touched alien vessels, the ships simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris, no trace that they had ever been there. Fleet Commander Zenthara felt his flagship shake under weapons fire that somehow went right through his shields. This was impossible. His shields were designed to stop any known weapon in the galaxy. "Impossible!" he screamed at his crew. Their technology readings indicated primitive propulsion. How do they have weapons like this? But his questions had no answers. The human ships were using science that the aliens had never seen before. The hegemony had conquered 47 worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. Lieutenant Kong So-young piloted her destroyer, called the Indomitable, through the alien formation like a dancer moving through a crowd. Her ship twisted and spun in ways that should have torn apart, but the quantum drives made physics work differently. The aliens tried to shoot at her, but their targeting computers could not lock onto a ship that seemed to exist in several places at once. "Target their command ship," she ordered Ensign Bay Menesio. "Let's end this quickly." The Indomitable dove toward the massive alien flagship, like a hawk attacking a rabbit. Plasma bolts flew past them, but So-Young's ship moved too fast and too unpredictably to hit. When they reached the perfect distance, Bay pressed the firing button. The dark energy cannon sent a beam of pure void toward the alien command ship. The massive vessel, which had destroyed dozens of worlds, simply ceased to exist. Fleet Commander Zenthara and his entire crew vanished without even time to scream. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships demonstrated technology that seemed to break the laws of science. They moved faster than light, shot through solid matter, and fired weapons that deleted their targets from reality. The alien ships had been designed to fight normal enemies with normal weapons. But humans were not normal, and their weapons came from 50 years of secret research by the smartest minds on Earth. In less than 2 hours, the entire alien advance fleet was completely destroyed. 200 ships that had conquered worlds across the galaxy were reduced to nothing. Not even space thus remained. But Admiral Yoon knew that this was just the beginning of the war. The aliens who had just died were only scouts. Somewhere in the galaxy, the main hegemony fleet was waiting. They would be much larger and much more dangerous. Captain Song, he called across the command bridge, activate the deep space fleet. It's time to take the fight to them. Throughout the galaxy, hidden in dark places where no one would think to look, the True Death fleet began to wake up. These ships had been traveling through space for decades, hiding in asteroid fields and gas clouds, waiting for this exact moment. 10,000 ships, each one crewed by volunteers who had slept in ice-cold pods for years, received their activation codes at exactly the same time. From hundreds of star systems, human warriors opened their eyes and prepared for battle. The aliens had made their choice when they murdered 3,000 innocent people at Luna Colony. Now humanity would show them the consequences of that choice. The hunt was about to begin, and this time, humans would be the predators. Supreme Hegemon Vextharian stood in his war room on the capital world called Dominion Prime. He was an old alien who had ruled 47 star systems for 300 years. In all that time, no one had ever dared to fight back against his mighty empire. But now everything was falling apart, and it was all because of the humans. His advisors walked into the room with worried faces. They carried bad news, and Vextharian could see in their eyes before they even spoke. "Report," he demanded, his voice angry and impatient. General KLY Thane pressed a button, and a big holographic map appeared in the air above the table. The map showed all the worlds that belonged to the hegemony. But instead of the usual green lights that meant everything was normal, there were red marks everywhere. Red meant trouble. Red meant death. Red meant the humans were coming. In the past 72 hours, we have lost contact with 17 systems, the general said, his voice shaking slightly. Our fleets report that human ships appear from nowhere, destroy our forces completely, then disappear before our reinforcements can arrive. Vextharian slammed his fist on the table, making the hologram flicker. "How is this possible?" he screamed. "Our spies told us they only had primitive rockets that burn chemical fuel. How do they have weapons that can destroy our fleets?" What the hegemony did not understand was that humans were very good at lying and keeping secrets. When Earth first heard alien signals decades ago, the world's smartest people had made a plan. They would show the galaxy primitive rockets and peaceful space stations. But in secret, they would build the most powerful fleet that had ever existed. While other species panicked when the hegemony arrived, humans had been ready for 50 years. They had learned everything about alien technology by listening to their radio signals. They had built weapons and ships that were far more advanced than anything the aliens possessed. Captain Park Hae-jin commanded one of the human fleets that was now operating deep in alien territory. Her battle group had 50 ships, each one invisible to alien sensors, and armed with weapons that could destroy entire planets if needed. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at a planet called Kepler 442. Until yesterday, this world had been home to millions of slaves who worked in alien factories. The native species had been conquered by the hegemony over 200 years ago and had lived in misery ever since. But now they were free. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Commander Oh Sung-woo from his control station, "we are receiving thank you messages from the planet's surface. The people down there are calling us the liberators from the void. Park nodded but did not smile. She was happy that the slaves were free, but there was still much work to do. The hegemony had thousands of worlds where innocent people suffered under alien rule. Set course for the Proxima Industrial Complex. She ordered her crew. Our intelligence reports say the aliens are using slave workers to build weapons there. It is time to shut it down permanently. The human fleets moved through hegemony space like invisible ghosts. They appeared without warning at alien military bases, destroyed everything in sight, then vanished before help could arrive. The aliens never saw them coming and never understood how they died so quickly. Each time the humans liberated a world, the freed slaves told them about other places where the hegemony kept prisoners or built weapons. The information helped the human fleets choose their next targets with perfect accuracy. On Earth, Admiral Yoon sat in his command center, watching the war progress on giant screens. The displays showed human forces attacking on dozens of fronts at the same time. An empire that had taken the alien centuries to build was being torn apart in just days. "Sir," Captain Song said from his position nearby, "the hegemony is asking for peace talks. They are offering to give us territory and pay us money if we stop attacking." Admiral Yoon's face did not change expression. He remembered the 3,000 innocent people who had died at Luna Colony. He remembered the billions of slaves who had suffered under alien rule for centuries. The time for mercy had passed when the aliens chose to threaten human families. "Send them our standard response," he said in a cold voice. The message went out on all radio frequencies, so every alien in the galaxy could hear it. The words were simple but terrifying. "You demanded our surrender. We said no. You threatened to kill us all. We accepted your challenge. Now prepare for the consequences of your choices." Throughout the galaxy, alien commanders received the message and felt fear for the first time in their lives. The humans were not interested in money or territory. They wanted complete victory, and nothing would stop them from getting it. The Death Fleet pressed forward toward the core worlds of the Hegemony Empire. Behind them, they left a trail of liberated planets and destroyed alien fleets. Freed slaves looked up at the stars and sang songs of gratitude to the mysterious humans who had come from a void to save them. The aliens had ruled the galaxy through fear and cruelty for centuries, but now the hunters had become hunted, and humanity was coming for them all. The siege of Dominion Prime lasted 3 days, but everyone knew the outcome from the very first moment. Supreme Hegemon Vextharian stood in his underground command bunker, staring at screens that showed the space around his home planet. What he saw there made his blood turn cold with fear. The human Death Fleet had arrived, and it was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. 10,000 ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. They moved together like a school of fish, each ship knowing exactly where it needed to be. The vessel surrounded Dominion Prime like a steel noose, blocking every possible escape route. "How many ships do they have?" Vextharian whispered to General Kelwethane, his voice shaking with terror. The general looked at his instruments with disbelief. "Our sensors detect all of them, sir. This appears to be their entire fleet. For 3 centuries, Vextharian had been the most powerful being in the galaxy. Entire star systems bowed before him. Billions of slaves worked to make him richer. No one had ever dared to challenge his authority. But now he felt small and helpless, like a child hiding from monsters in the dark. Admiral Yoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, called the Retribution. Through the large windows, he could see the last remnants of the hegemony's once mighty navy forming up for battle. The alien ships were outnumbered 10-1, and their weapons were no match for human technology. But still they prepared to fight. "Admiral," Captain Song reported from the station, "the alien fleet is moving to attack us. They are broadcasting on all radio channels. Something about dying with honor." Admiral Yoon felt a moment of respect for the alien warriors. They knew they were going to die, but they chose to face death bravely rather than surrender without a fight. Even though they were his enemies, he could admire their courage. "Respect their choice," Yoon said quietly, "but make it quick." The final battle of the war lasted less than 1 hour. Human ships equipped with quantum drives danced between plasma bolts like leaves in the wind. Their movements were so fast and graceful that the aliens could barely track them, let alone hit them with their weapons. The dark energy cannons fired in perfect coordination, each shot carefully aimed to destroy alien ships with minimum suffering for their crews. The hegemony fleet fought bravely, but they might as well have been throwing rocks at a hurricane. When the last alien warship fell silent and dark, the Death Fleet turned its attention to the planet below. Every person on Dominion Prime held their breath, waiting for the bombardment that would turn their world into burning ash. But instead of destruction, they heard a voice speaking calmly on all communication frequencies. Supreme Hegemon Vextharian, you are ordered to surrender unconditionally. You will face trial for war crimes committed against 47 species. Your cooperation will determine whether your people survive this transition. In his bunker deep underground, Vextharian finally understood the terrible truth. The humans had not revealed their true strength until they chose to do so. Every other species of hegemony had conquered, had fought with panic and desperation. But humanity had fought with cold, calculated precision. They were a species that had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. "Sir," his aide whispered, afraid to speak too loudly, "what are your orders?" The former Supreme Hegemon looked up at the concrete ceiling above his head. He knew that somewhere far above, 10,000 human ships waited with weapons that could crack planets in half. His empire was finished. His reign of terror was over. "Signal our surrender," he said in a broken voice, "and pray that their justice is more merciful than ours ever was." 6 months later, the galaxy had changed completely. The world that had once been called Dominion Prime was now known as New Unity. Instead of a palace for one tyrant, it had become a meeting place for dozens of free species. The Galactic Liberation Council held its first official session in a great hall where representatives from many worlds sat together as equals. Humans sat next to aliens who had been slaves just months before. Former enemies worked together to write new laws based on cooperation instead of fear. Admiral Yoon, now serving as Earth's representative to the Council, stood up to give the closing speech of the session. His words were translated into dozens of different languages, so everyone could understand. "Let this be a lesson to anyone who would threaten peaceful species," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. Humanity wanted only to explore the stars and make friends with other civilizations. When we were forced to fight, we fought with everything we had. The Death Fleet is still operational, watching over this new order. We hope and pray we never need to use it again. In the gallery above, thousands of beings who had once been slaves looked down at the human diplomats. Their faces showed gratitude and wonder. If humans had been hiding such incredible power while appearing weak and primitive, what other species in the galaxy might be doing the same thing? The age of the hegemony was over forever. The age of freedom and cooperation had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the human Death Fleet continued its silent patrol, making sure that no one would ever again try to enslave the innocent or threaten the peaceful. The galaxy was finally free.